it's been pretty sleepy few months. There hasn't really been any news, like even outside of Knicks land. It's like there's nothing really been going on the Dame front or the Harden front. Obviously, you had FIBA, so that was a thing. And I was kind of preparing for it to be another slow couple of weeks, and then kind of out of nowhere, yesterday we got some news that. I'm very curious to talk to you about, because the news obviously is that Julius Randle has left CAA.
Yep.
And there are times where my reaction to a story or something happening will be very much in line with the masses and consensus. And I could tell pretty quickly that this was not going to be one of them, because I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, what's going on here? This is a big deal. And it is very clear to me, at least based on from what I have seen, that there are many people who are seeming to want to put this in the very much not a big deal category. So I'm just going to start by asking you, when you first saw the news that Randle was leaving CAA, what was your reaction?
My reaction, honestly, so I'm in that category of I don't think this is that much of a big deal.
See, this is why I'm very happy about that, because I'm curious to pick your brain about it. Continue, please.
Yeah, because so first thing I thought was why. People leave representation all the time for a myriad of reasons, right? Like this even happens with people like myself who on-air talent, who have an agent or have representation. So I was wondering, was he unhappy? I don't think this necessarily ties as much to the Knicks for him. Let me just say that. We understand Leon Rose. We understand his ties with CAA. There's a bunch of Knicks that are tied to CAA. RJ Barrett is tied to WME, which is interesting. I will say that. Do I think this means a trade is brewing for Julius Randle? Not necessarily. What I do think is interesting about this is he is going to WME. His former agent was with CAA. Maybe he wanted to get back with his agent. Maybe he liked how his agent
business manager. We should clarify his
business manager.
Or all right, I should even clarify further than that. Mm-hmm. Someone who managed his promotional affairs or something that is not going to be his agent now, but who works, as you said, with WMA. Yeah.
Right. I don't know what the relationship was, why he'd want to go back there. I'm assuming they had a good relationship. Maybe he wanted to get, I don't know. I don't think it, I'm curious. Before I don't want to even talk anymore. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I think Nick. Let me put it like this. This is what I'll say before I let you go. Knicks fans, and you know this, John. You know how the Knicks fans are about Julius Randle. It's been up and down and up and down, and so sometimes I think the fans are looking for something with Julius Randle, and a lot of Knicks fans want to move on from Julius Randle. I understand some of it. I get that. I don't know if I put you in that category, but I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
The only category I'm in, other than I do have a liking for Brunson. He is etched out a special place in what's left of the true fan zone of my heart. Brunson pretty much has that one on lockdown. Everybody else to me is expendable. If you are can be traded for player X that is going to be in furtherance of the Knicks eventually winning a championship, which is all I want to see. I just want to see them win a championship before I die. It'd be fun to see. It'd be fun to write about. It'd be fun to talk about. It'd be the whole thing. So if I could trade Julius Randle somewhere and my team's getting better, absolutely. I've kind of settled into a place with him where I've accepted his strengths. I've accepted his weaknesses. And I think most importantly, I've accepted that this team has placed a pretty good ecosystem around him where I think he's going to be as successful here as he is going to be for any team. So I'm not in a rush to get rid of him, but it's funny you say that, because there's been something going on over the last 36 hours since the news drop, where it's yes, there are people who said exactly what you said, which is okay, well, that obviously Randle's getting traded, which is not my reaction, by the way, for what it's worth.
Okay.
I'll get back to it in a second. And then there has been an onslaught of backlash to that reaction, where it's been oh, look at all these Knicks fans. They can't appreciate their all-star.
I've seen that.
Yes, he does a thing, and people immediately make it out to be like he's gone and they're happy about that. And there's obviously, because we are incapable of having a conversation anymore, just as a society.
not on Twitter. Well, now call X. Not on whatever. Twitter. That's not going to happen. Whatever.
Doesn't even matter. Be like that. It just devolves into madness. I guess where I stand is like, and I'm literally just going to say what my like this. As best as I could tell, this is my own thought process. I don't think I'm saying anything that isn't true here. Ever since Leon Rose and World Wide West took over the Knicks, like in my mind, they have been even more tied to CAA than they already were. And they were already, as an organization, very tied to CAA. And we don't have to go through the Bargnani of it all and so on and so forth. Really don't need to do that.
I like that.
Yeah. But like, so they were tied. And then ever since then, it's like, you see national media, not only national media members, but also like local beat guys like Ian, like, I hope this was on air. But like, I remember we were joking before an episode of the Putback. So maybe it was off air. Maybe I shouldn't say. I don't think he'll mind. But we were joking about. I was like, oh, we're going to talk all about the Jacob Toppin signing today, and we were joking about that pick. And he said something like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that pick was made, in June of 20. When did they draft Obi Toppin? 2020.
2020. Yeah. 2020,
yeah. Like I'm pretty sure that Exhibit 10 was signed in June of 2020. It's like, and that's just one example. Now there are other, like, I think everybody kind of has an understanding, or at least in my mind, everybody has an understanding. Like CAA and the Knicks are kind of tied at the hip. Do you think that's nuts that I think that? Because that's how I've thought since they took over, and nothing that has happened since then has dissuaded me from thinking that.
No, it's not nuts. And it's also right. You and I know this. It's not just about sports. It's the way business works, right?
Of course.
People are going to do a lot of ties. I'll tell people this, but a lot of things you see in media goes with who's tied to what agency and what agents have what relationships with what outlets. And this is how certain people get jobs and all this stuff. That does matter. So I want to be very clear. Now, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter. And the Knicks have been very tied to CAA. I think you bringing up Jacob Toppin is a fantastic point towards that, right? I think even when some people saw the move of them drafting him, that was like, okay, Obi's going to stay here. That'll keep him here. They want to keep him happy. Obviously, it didn't work. It didn't work out that way. I think the thing we need to talk about here, John, is just because Randle switched agencies, does that mean he's going to leave?
So let's get to that part.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a twofold, or actually, no, it's not even a twofold thing. To me, it's like, I think there's, again, a lot of talk like, oh, he switched agencies. That means he's getting traded. I don't see it that way. I am more about literally the first words out of your mouth when I asked you the question. You were like, well, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
That's literally all I'm wondering.
And I think that's, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that is the question. And that's what's fair to question. The point I was making at the top was that people switch representation for so many different reasons.
And that's where we could end up with this and move on to other stuff. Because I know a lot of people listening to this right now do not want to hear already are past the point where they want to hear about this. Because again, to a lot of people, this is like a non-story. But like, if it is clear from the outside looking in that like there is this like chumminess, right, between the organization and CAA, and there has been, and like, look, I'm gonna at some point I'll talk to Fred Katz, over at The Athletic about this, but like he reported over the summer that there are people like agents and like players that talk about like CAA guys just get treated better, differently if you like with the Knicks, like it's a thing, like it is a topic of discussion. In whether it's in locker rooms, in, as you say, the business side of it, in agents' offices, like people talk about this. This is a topic in the NBA. So if there is that chumminess, for me, for Julius to take the affirmative step of saying, I am leaving this while I'm still a member of this team, to me, that says that something either happened or he is not happy about something or like something like I don't see this as something one does without a very specific reason. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if you feel this way. I cannot for the life of me think like, oh, someone he used to work with is now at this other agency. He wants to go do him a solid by signing there. That's not enough for me.
Yeah, I want to be clear on that too. That's not I don't think that happened. I don't think that it works. I think somebody being at another agency, you're not going to do them a solid. It can make you more comfortable
to
go to that place. To your point, John, that still means something you didn't like something there.
Something was like uncomfortable at a minimum.
Yes. At a minimum, yes. Right? I'm going to say this to people. This is the agency, the way you got to look at it, it's no different in a way than a trade request, except you have a little bit more power. If you want to fire your agent, you don't like your agent, you don't like your representation anymore, you have a bit of the power to do so of that. But the only reason you'd move on is because you thought possibly two things. One, you did not think the representation that you had was doing right by you, whatever that means. Whether it's you don't think they'll negotiate you a fair deal on your next deal, maybe they weren't getting you the marketing opportunities that you would like. All these things matter to players, right? Secondly, when you are going to leave representation, you're going to do your homework and look at where you think you're going to do the things that you didn't think were being done for you. So that's where I'm with you on this, John. At a minimum, what you're saying, and I think we should be clear for everybody, what you're saying is like, look, something wasn't right for Julius there. I'm not saying it's something nefarious, something bad, something he just didn't like and said, I need to move from here and go here. Now, is that interesting in the context of the Knicks, where there is so much of a CAA tie and there's a lot of players there assigned to CAA? It's interesting. Do I think it affects Julius's standing with the team? I don't know. I can't really speak to that.
I want to be very clear about this. Mm-hmm. Do I think that he's going to step foot in the locker room and like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and who else? Isaiah Hartenstein. Who am I forgetting? I think I'm forgetting one player who might be. Maybe that's it. It might just be those three. Right. He's going to like give him the side. No, I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think they're going to look. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this. I hope not that his teammate, like those teammates that with CAA are going to look at him differently. I'm again, just more like this is a guy who, and again, this does tie into the Julius thing. And this is where, if you're someone out there who's listening to this, who's like, oh, he's a Julius hater. First of all, I don't think that's a fair characterization. I defended him a lot over the course of this year and apologize for how I was last summer. I was like, get this guy the hell out of here. I was wrong. But I don't know that you could deny that he is he's clearly an emotional guy. He has shown volatility at times, right? So I just wonder if he is upset at something with CAA and with maybe the front office or whatever. I do wonder what impact that will have on how he goes about his business. I'm not saying that he won't still prepare the way he usually does. He's, in impeccable shape coming in every year. So like, I don't question that, but I mean, just from I guess like a mental state, emotional state, whatever, that's all I'm wondering. And down the line, is there a stronger possibility that Julius is not on the team now than there was in my mind at least 3 days ago? Yeah, sure. That door has been opened a little bit wider. And that's it. That's all. That's why I do think, but it's significant.
Because he no longer will have the ties that CAA then has to Leon Rose, that let's say something were to go wrong where things can be smoothed over. Just to be clear to everybody, so they know this too. And I know you know this, John. These Leon Rose now in upper management, all these front offices, they have relationships with tons of different agencies. Does it help when you got more players that have a tie to an agency that you do? Of course it helps, because when you need to get in touch with the agent, when something's wrong, you're going to take that phone call a little bit quicker. You're going to answer back a little bit quicker, right? Those are some of the benefits to where players that might be with CAA and have ties to Leon Rose are just going to be different. And that's just how it goes. This is how these things go. I do think it opens up the door a little bit more. I don't think that means Julius Randle's going to get traded. Definitively is going to get traded.
No.
Now that he's with WME, I've seen some of this from Knicks fans. Oh, they're trying to get him out the door. No, that's not how it works. And they're not doing that.
And we should say, if there's been another NBA agent over the last 2 decades, maybe not go 2 decades, but like at least over the last 10 years or so, that has had ties with the Knicks other than CAA, it's been Bill Duffy, who WME acquire.
Yep.
I don't want to say you can't acquire a person. You know what I mean? Who he became part of WME back in March. He heads up their basketball. Like he represented Joakim Noah, who the Knicks, Phil Jackson gave, whatever it was, $72 million. And obviously he represents RJ Barrett, who, for as much as we want to talk about, was almost traded last summer. He's still on the team, paid him $100 million, the whole thing. So like there's clearly a good relationship with Duffy. Yep. So yeah, no, I think you said it spot on. But yeah, it's not nothing to me. That's all. That's all I guess is all. But that's my position. It's not nothing. You know what I mean?
Maybe I'm a little hard. I think at the beginning I said I was kind of meh on the news, right? I don't something. The point we're agreeing on and what we're saying, just to be clear again for everybody, is nobody leaves their representation if everything is wonderful.
That's it.
And that means their relationship with either their agent directly or the actual agency. But most of the times it's about your direct relationship with your agent. So nobody just says, I'm out. Nobody's just like, hey, you know what, John? I want to try this other agency just because. Nobody does that, right? Like that just doesn't happen.
Just because it's like it's a major shift, It's like it's and especially, by the way, since he's talk about a guy who's talked up his agent. He's talked up Aaron Mintz over the years as like really being there for him during like tough times and this and that. So, but whatever. I think that I don't have anything else to say on this. I'm going to wait and see if anything else comes of it.